Matt Wilson here for another year video. This is going to be 1968. I keep telling you guys how difficult it is to do these shows because first I must compile the list, which is arbitrary sometimes because I could just as easily make another list tomorrow and it would be different. Then I got to go find the CDs. Then I got to put them in front of me in little stacks of 10 and number them, because otherwise if I'm showing them to you, on the video, I'm going to forget what number I'm on. So this is going to be my top 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, my top 60 of 1968. You guys, I have well over 100, closer to 200 albums of 1968, but I want to show you guys things that I can really recommend to you with a straight face, that I'm not just going to say, oh, this is okay, it's got a couple good songs on it. No, I want to show you all good albums, great albums, and even classic albums. So I'm going to start with the Beatles. This is my stereo copy of the White Album, also called The Beatles. This is my favorite Beatles album. I know everyone's got their favorites, whether it's Peppers or Abbey Road or Revolver seems to be a big one these days. Some will even opt for Rubber Soul or whatever. But with me, I like the White Album. I like the diversity. I like it's 30 songs. People say, oh, it's filler on there. It would be better as a single album, except no one can agree what songs you would whittle off to make it into a single album. And I like the whole thing. I mean, I wouldn't skip anything. When I play it, I don't even skip Revolution Number 9. Also, 1968 was a very tumultuous year in this country, well, all over the world. But here, we had we had Bobby Kennedy's assassination. We had Martin Luther King's assassination. We had the escalation of the Vietnam War. We had the Democratic Convention, which was terrible in 1968. So this album seems to represent the chaos of that year. Even something like Revolution Number 9 does that. So it is my favorite Beatles album. It is the one time that I think that they released my favorite album of any given year. All right? All right, number 2 is the Kinks are the Village Green Preservation Society. This is also my favorite Kinks album. I'll always tell you when something is my favorite album by this band. This album is perfect. There is no filler on this record. There are no hits, but hey, that's okay. This is my preferred way to listen to it. This is a triple disc set. It's the mono mix, it's the stereo mix, and it's a whole CD of rarities, stuff that they recorded at that time. It's perfect. People ask me for perfect albums. There you go. The Kinks of the Village Green Preservation Society. All right, got to have some Jimmy way up there. Electric Ladyland is my favorite album by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. It's another double. I love great double albums, and Electric Ladyland and the White Album are two fantastic examples of that. Yeah, there's songs you can call filler, but I've had these albums since I was a kid in the 70s. I even like the filler. This is like a movie for your mind. It's trippy, You can be on other substances while you listen to it, or you can hear it straight, as I've done most of my life. It is a classic. I think this is the fullest extent of what Jimmy could do in the studio. Number 4, yes, Zappa, Mothers of Invention. We're only in it for the money. It is, you guessed it, folks, my favorite Mothers of Invention album. I'm showing you the Mobile Fidelity version. I don't recommend that one because it's a remix. They took the Ryko remix that Frank had done in the late 80s, and this is what MoFi did. They put this out. No. You can get the mono mix, the original 1968 mono mix of this on CD. That's how I recommend that you hear it if you're a stereo guy and don't like mono, until the original 1968 stereo mix makes it onto CD and not the Zappa remix. That's the one I'm going to recommend, is the mono. Okay? All right. Bookends. Simon & Garfunkel, number 5. Yes, It is my favorite album of theirs. It is damn near perfect. There is the least amount of filler on here. You could, you know, there's that track where the old people are talking. I guess if that's filler, but I don't skip it. Just like Revolution number 9. I mean, Paul Simon was a freak of nature when it came to writing perfect pop songs, folk pop songs, singer-songwriter, classics. I don't think anybody was better than him at that. Songs that were hummable and you could memorize the words and sound great on the radio. None of the mono mixes of the Simon & Garfunkel LPs are on CD. I don't believe that Paul Simon likes them. So for you stereo enthusiasts, you'll be happy. Any CD you buy of any Simon & Garfunkel album is going to be the stereo mix as far as I know. Bookends, total 5-star classic. All right, you guys know this is number 6, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Cheap Thrills, that I am a San Francisco or Bay Area fanatic. I've never even lived there. I've lived in Northern California, in Stockton, but I've always had a romantic fascination with San Francisco. I love California music. This is hippie stuff. It's right up my alley. This is another 5-star album. This is Big Brother's best album. They only made 2. It's probably the best album that Janis Joplin ever sang on. It's this or Pearl, and I'm going to go for this. All right? It is psychedelic. It is bluesy. It rocks. It has my favorite version of Ball and Chain by anybody, but my favorite version by Big Brother and the Holding Company. I love it. It's not all live. I love the R. Crumb cover. You know, this is a matte disc, a matte album, if ever there was one. All right, I am a Byrds fanatic. Byrds, Notorious Byrd Brothers is number 7. I go back and forth. Is this my favorite Byrds album? Probably. This or Younger Than Yesterday. It's a toss-up. This is a very psychedelic album. This CD is great. There's a Mobile Fidelity mono mix, but I actually probably prefer, not even probably, I do prefer the stereo mix. It's got good, you know, bonus tracks. It's another, you know, this is another psychedelic mix. You know, 68 is the year that's, some people were kind of moving away from psych, and when I get to albums like that, I'm going to point it out to you. But there was just as much great psych in 68 as there was in 67, possibly more, as you're going to see as I go through my top 60. All right, so this is as good an album as came out of Los Angeles in 1968. Okay, Astral Weeks, number 8, Van Morrison. For an album of this magnitude, an album of this quality, an album of this reputation, it's phenomenal that there's no deluxe edition, there's no box set. There's just the remastered CD, which looks just like the unremastered CD. So get this online and make sure that you're typing in remastered if you're going to get it, you know, wherever. You know, this is Van Morrison's magnum opus. I see the CD cover's falling off. It takes you places that no other artist was really attempting to. I was listening to Tim Buckley's first album last night, and there's a track or two on there. He's a teenager when he made that record, which kind of remind me of going into the stratosphere like Van Morrison would do. He just didn't do it as well, though. You know, Astral Weeks. This album didn't sell anything. It was like a Velvet Underground record, but it's a masterpiece. But it's not for everybody. When I first heard this record, I couldn't get into it. You know, it took my then Irish girlfriend, who later became my wife, to make me hear this through different ears. All right, I'm rating this one kind of high, but I'm a big fan. Spirit is my 9th choice for 1968. They did 2 albums that year, both of which will be on my list. This is the Audio Fidelity Steve Hoffman disc where you get the original LP mix, not a remix. I know a lot of people go for 12 Dreams and Dr. Sardonicus as being their favorite Spirit album. This is mine. It is perfect again. It's a quintessential Los Angeles psych record for that year. You know, not quite as good as Notorious Byrd Brothers, but damn close. You know, and Spirit is just one of a few bands who had 2 albums that year. You know, I think I'll touch upon all of them, but There's Iron Butterfly and Steppenwolf and Blue Cheer and I don't remember what else, but all right. I can't have a year in the late 60s, a top 10, without having the Rolling Stones. This is Beggar's Banquet. This is not the original cover. This is the cover that they wanted to put out, but the record label didn't like it. Instead we got a white cover with just that font, Rolling Stones, Beggar's Banquet. Anyways, it's a great Stones album. This is kind of a return to roots for them. I was going to mention albums that were kind of moving away from psychedelia. Their album before this was their Satanic Majesty's Request, which is their full-on psych album. There's very little to no psych on this album. So, it's like an acoustic folk blues record. You've all heard this. You know what I'm talking about. Beggar's Banquet, another masterpiece. That is my top 10. I'm going to move this stack out my way. All right. 11 through 20, narrowly missing the top 10, is the second Byrds album of the year, Sweetheart of the Rodeo. This is the best recorded Byrds album ever. It's beautiful sounding in stereo. There was no true mono mix for this. There's controversy as to whether Roger McGuinn singing the vocals, on the songs that Graham Parsons originally sang are better. I don't really care. If you get the double disc version of this, you get the Graham vocals anyway. There's no filler on here. The Byrds were notorious for having filler on their albums. I don't think there's any filler on this album. It is pretty much a country album, though. Even the only thing that makes this country rock and not country, I guess, is the drums. It's hard to say. There's a lot of cover versions on here. They don't bother me though. This is the one album that Graham Parsons made with the band is very instrumental in the development of country rock, although there was country rock before this. I should do a whole show on country rock one day. It's very difficult to pinpoint exactly where it starts, but this is a total important album in the development of country rock. All right. Okay, that's number 11. Okay, anyone who knows me knows I'm a Doors fanatic. You might think I'm rating this album kind of high. It's number 12, Waiting for the Sun, I don't care. The first two albums are 5-star classics. This is just a hair's short of a 5-star album. Waiting for the Sun, this is the Steve Hoffman DCC disc. If there's filler on here, I don't care. I mean, what would the filler be? My Wild Love, I guess? We Could Be So Good, the Others Average. But I mean, I love 90% of the songs on here, and it's still the Doors with the kind of nighttime carnivalesque sound that they really had going on the first two albums, without the the strings and the horns that they would induce on Soft Parade. Having said that, are there strings on this album? I don't remember. Anyways, I love it. The Soft Parade. Okay, number 13. I probably should have had this higher. In terms of influence, the band, music from Big Pink, I would say along with Sweetheart of the Rodeo, this is a major move away from psychedelia, but nobody bought Sweetheart of the Rodeo. Everyone had this album though, even though it wasn't like a number one album or anything. It was very influential. This was influential on other musicians too. No one had heard. Procol Harum kind of had a sound like this, but there was piano and there was organ, and the guitar was not really up front in the music, and they all played different instruments. Like they could play their instrument, and then on stage they could switch instruments, and a lot of them sang, and Robbie and Richard Manuel were the writers of this time, but it's too bad Dylan didn't do an album this year. Well, actually, his last album before this was John Wesley Harding, and I like this album better than John Wesley Harding. Anyways, because the real John Wesley Harding didn't add the G. This is a classic, folks. Okay, number 14, Lady Soul. I'm a big Aretha Franklin fan. People will see my list sometimes and they go, God, you rate those Aretha albums high. Yeah, well, she's pretty much my favorite singer. For sure, my favorite female singer. But this is one of her truly great albums. I think the only album in the 60s she made better than this was I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. So this is like her second best album of this time period of the late 60s. She's still fresh on Atlantic, and you know, could virtually do no wrong. Okay, 15 is Zombies, Odyssey, and Oracle. Right now, the only way this is I Xerox this off from the internet. I have this album on the Zombies box set, the 4 CD box set. I've just recently ordered. They're making the mono mix available on CD for the first time. I ordered that. It hasn't come in yet. I'm doing this show now, but everyone knows Odyssey and Oracle, and they misspell Odyssey, but that's on purpose. I think it's on purpose. Is their best album. This is like a psych album that they had recorded earlier, but it came out in '68. Time of the Season was on here, and that wasn't a hit until '69. It's just awesome. You know, it's Baroque psych pop, right? And I'm sure many people are saying, how come this has not made your top 10? You know, well, folks, it's my list, not yours. All right, so that's number 15. Number 16, I perhaps rate this too highly, but there you go. The first Quicksilver Messenger Service album. It's a psych classic to my ears. This is the best studio album that the band ever made. It's the quintessential lineup before Dino Valenti joined. I like everything on here. The Fool might go on a bit long, but I like it. I love the Rick Griffin font on the cover. It's, you know, you can see it's there on my poster. Big Quicksilver guy, did a show on them, which very few of you watched. This is a psych classic from San Francisco. This is their debut album. All right. 17, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. This is the Audio Fidelity quad mix. This is the one where David Clayton Thomas comes in to play. I'm also going to have the debut album by that Al Cooper sings on later on in this show. But this is one where all the hits are on it. I think this is a 5-star album. I know that probably the critical consensus is that the Al Cooper album is better. I don't know. I like this one more. This is the one I grew up with. I had the MoFi disc from decades ago, but this is the quad mix, and I like it a lot. All right. Jeff Beck is number 18. This is my Mo Fidelity SACD of Truth. I'm a huge Yardbirds and Beck guy. This was, you know, people say this is the blueprint for Led Zeppelin. Yeah, kind of. Only Zeppelin did it better. But that combination of Jeff Beck with Rod Stewart was unbeatable. And when I saw Rod Stewart live in 2019, he brought on Jeff Beck. So I got to hear them play. And, you know, now that Jeff's no longer with us, that's the one time I ever saw Jeff Beck live. I've seen Rod Stewart more than once. So love this album. Very close to that album is Cream, Wheels of Fire. This is what Eric Clapton was doing. This is the DCC, Steve Hoffman, Wheels of Fire, double LP, half live, half studio, the first really famous album like that. It just went to number 1. You know, Cream were pretty much doing what the Jimi Hendrix Experience were doing, but just not quite as good. But I still love Cream. I love this album. For years, it took me a long time to get into the live stuff, and I still think that I like the studio version of Toad better. I like the studio version of, what is it? Well, not Crossroads, because that's a classic. Spoonful. Couldn't find it. So I think Toad and Spoonful are done better elsewhere, but I can finally listen to those versions and not get bored. I am bored though with Train Time. That's on a Graham Bond Organization album that Ginger and Jack were in, and they did that there, and then they brought it back here. But I love all the studio stuff. Okay. My number 20 is Nilsson's Aerial Ballet. This is my favorite Harry Nilsson album. I looked long and hard today for my Harry Nilsson Complete RCA Albums box set. Couldn't find it, so I just, did this for you on the internet, Discogs. This is probably my favorite Harry Nilsson record. He's just one of those wonderful, eccentric, LA singer-songwriters like Tim Buckley or Captain Beefheart or Tom Waits. Tom Waits, I think, originally made his bones in San Diego, but I'll do a show on Milson one day. Randy Newman could be, you know, in that list as well. Gene Clark, that I did a lot of. I told you guys a lot about Gene Clark albums in my Birds video. I'll have one of his albums on this show today too. Lots of great singer-songwriters came from LA. Harry Nilsson, Aerial Ballet. Love it. Okay, that's 11 through 20. Let's look at, oh, here it is. Let's look at 21 through 30. Pretty Things, SF Sorrow. Got the stereo mix and the mono mix on CD. Don't know what I prefer. This is their big psychedelic album. Again, it came out in late 68, but it really sounds like a 67 album. It's a concept LP. They say it's a rock opera, but I don't think I buy that. It's just a concept LP. Tommy is a rock opera. It has a libretto. All the characters sing their parts. There's an overture. This is a concept LP. There's a difference, but it's still a great album. If this isn't the Pretty's best record, then it's going to be Parachute. They also did a good Electric Banana album at this time. So Pretty Things, SF Sorrow, that's number 21. Sailor is 22. This is the second album by the Steve Miller Band. I will show you their first one on this show as well. This is my favorite one. I think this is still a classic album. You had Boz Scaggs doing a couple numbers on here. I would love to have something like this in surround sound. If I could find the multis for this, I would love it. I like all those early Steve Miller Band albums during his San Francisco era. He was not from San Francisco, though. And Sailor's my favorite one. Traffic is number 23. Traffic is, well, I did a show on Traffic, so you guys know I love these guys. This might be their best album, or the first record. I think it's one of these first two. These first two albums have the least amount of filler. This is still, you know, kind of psych, but not as psych as the first album. You still got Dave Mason on here. Winwood is singing his ass off, as he always does. Can't recommend that album enough. 24 is The Move. I don't think I've talked to you guys about The Move yet. This is the mono mix on CD. This is a double disc or is it a single disc? Double disc. Got the stereo mix too. I don't know which one I prefer, but this is a wonderful psych pop album. All the songs are good. Some of them are great. The Move. All right. 25 is Jethro Tull. This was. I did a Tull show for you guys. I love all the Jethro Tull albums from here on for many years. This is when you still had Mick Abrams in the band. It's before Martin Barre, however you say his last name. It's more of a bluesy album than Ian Anderson would be accustomed to, but I love it. All right. Here's the second Blood, Sweat, and Tears record of the day, but it's their first one that's released. This is number 26. This is Child is Father to the Man. This is the one I was telling you about with Al Cooper. No hits, but lots of great songs. This is the Steve Hoffman version. This is a 5.1 mix. Love it. All right, some would say I'm ranking this too high. 27 is Buffalo Springfield's Last Time Around. I watched a video on YouTube the other day. No, it was not on YouTube. It was on. It was a documentary on Neil Young, which I watched on Prime, where they had this British critic who says this album is terrible, shouldn't have been released. It's just a thrown together record. Yes, it's a thrown together record, but the songs are great. There's a few duds on here, but there's enough great material on here to make it well worth, you know, releasing. And, you know, it made my top 30 for 1968. Look at Neil looking the other way, like he wasn't fitting in with the band anymore. The band had pretty much broken up by the time this was released. This was put together by Richie Furay and Jim Messina, who was in the band at the time. All right. Okay, Spirit, number 28, The Family That Plays Together. I told you I was going to have both Spirit albums. This is almost as good as the first album, I think. This is the Steve Hoffman Audio Fidelity mix, which is the original LP mix. It's not a remix. I do recommend that you get this version. Pay extra for it, but sound quality will be worth it, I assure you. All right. You know, I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan, right? Couldn't go too long without having Anthem of the Sun with this lenticular cover, which I'm going to take off. Ooh, can I even get it out? Oh, well, I can't, so I'll just show you the booklet. That's the cover. I've got a shirt with the same album cover on there. This is as psychedelic as albums got in 1968. It's kind of half live, half studio, and then they blend it together so you can't really tell the difference. This is a mother, guys, as we used to say, and a mother effer. This is probably the Grateful Dead's most psychedelic ever album. That alone should make you want to buy it. Okay, for number 30, I'm gonna go with my man Elvis. This album's only in mono, and this is the soundtrack LP to his great comeback TV special, which I've watched my whole life, and I've got a DVD box set of all the outtakes and stuff. This album was only released in mono, but I love it. I'll put it a million times. And I'm not including this in my top 60, but I want to show you this anyway. This also came out in 1968. This is Elvis's Golden Records Volume 4. It doesn't have the huge hits that were on Volumes 1, 2, and 3, but I love this album. This is pretty much a 5-star record to me. Most of these songs, as on the first 3, had never been on LP before. So that makes buying these albums, all 3 of these albums, these Elvis's Golden Records albums, it makes them essential because most of these songs, like 9 out of 10 of these songs were not available on an LP, just on singles. All right? So that was my top 30. All right, let's do 31 to 40. All right, you've probably been wondering why it's taking me so long to have the Velvet Underground on here. I'll tell you, as great as this album is, White Light, White Heat, it's my least favorite of the 60s Velvet's albums. I mean, I like Sister Ray, but my God, it goes on long. And it's poorly recorded, this album. I love White Light, White Heat. The Gift is kind of cool. Lady Godiva's Operation is fun. Here She Comes Down, that's great. I Heard Her Call My Name is wow. You know, and then Sister Ray. But I just like the other 3 of the first 4 more than this one. All right? I still love it, though. I mean, look, it's number 31. Okay, I'm a Steppenwolf guy. They did 2 albums this year. I'm not going to have Steppenwolf the Second on my list because even though I like it, I think the other albums I'm putting on my top 60 are better. This is great, though. I mean, this has some of the most famous material. 3 songs that made it to the Easy Rider soundtrack. Anyways, I did a video on these guys, so you can check out my thoughts on Steppenwolf going right into the mid-70s with John Kay solo stuff as well. All right? All right, Beau Brummels, number 33, Bradley's Barn. They made 2 great albums, Triangle and this, and I like Volume 2 pretty much as well. This is their country rock album. Again, you know, it's like Sweet Out of the Rodeo. It's like the Dillards, Wheat Straw Street, which I'm going to show you later on. There's a lot of country rock happening at this point. When you listen to this album, though, it sounds kind of closer to Triangle than you think, you know. So it's not all just country rock. All right. Okay, 34 is Super Session. I don't know when I talked about this album. One of my videos. This is 68. This is Al Cooper, Mike Bloomfield, who does some of my favorite playing of him. Oh, I probably showed you guys this on the Bloomfield video I did. And then Steve Stills is on side 2. Bloomfield's on side 1. This was the first gold album that Steve Stills ever played on. So none of the 3 Buffalo Springfield records were gold records at the time. I don't know if any of them are now or not. Anyways, I love this album. This is like a classic to me. All right, got this in. This is on surround, yeah, 5.1. Okay, 35 is Miles Davis, Nefertiti. I could pretty much put a Miles Davis album up for any year. I'm a huge Miles Davis guy. This is my Mo5 version. You know, I had Sorcerer, I think, for 67. I'm having Nefertiti for 68. You guys should have plenty of miles in your collection. Gene Clark with Doug Dillard, the fantastic expedition of Dillard and Clark. This is the old silver disc Low Fidelity version. You know, Gene had done a solo album with the Gosden brothers on backing vocals before this. This is his first of 2 albums he would do with Doug Dillard. This is the better one, I think. This is a great album. Again, it's kind of country rock, although Clark was more of a folky. Dillard, of course, came from a bluegrass background. You're going to see a Dillard album later on. This is great, too. All right, Blue Cheers, my 37th choice. I don't know if this is the mono mix or not. I got the mono mix and I got the stereo mix. Don't really have a preference. This is Blue Cheers' best album, Vincebus Eruptum. The sound here is like proto-metal. It's definitely proto-grunge. You know, they're one of the unheralded, well, they've been pretty heralded, I guess, San Francisco bands, and their 2 great albums were from 68. Now, I forgot to pull it out, but I should have showed you the next album. Maybe I'll do a Blue Cheers show. We'll see. But this is heavy. It's got Summertime Blues on it. It's mostly cover versions, though. But it's what they do with those versions that counts, right? This is kind of like Jeff Beck on steroids. Okay, here's the Bee Gees, Horizontal. Is number 38. Not as good as First, but better than Idea, which I'm going to have later on. And I like Idea fine. I just synced this album with a friend of mine last night, so it's fresh in my mind. It's probably why I'm including it so high. It's still the band, not just the Bee Gees. You got Vince on guitar and Colin on drums, and it's actually got some songs that kind of rock, you know, for the Bee Gees. So it's for them, it's kind of heavy, but there's also plenty of ballads, plenty of Robin's bleating, goat vocals, and lots of Barry. All right, that's 39 is The Monkey's Head. This is the soundtrack to their great movie. It's got a lot of film dialogue on the album, but the songs are awesome. They do wonderful psychedelic stuff on here. This is the box set. I'm also going to show you, I didn't really have room for it on my list, but I also really like Birds, the Bees, and the Monkeys. This came out in 68 before Head. I'm not including this on my list. I'm just showing it to you, you know, to say if you're a Monkeys fan, you should have both. Okay, and that is 39. Number 40 is, I'm gonna have a tie, all right? Because I haven't had a tie since 1965, I think. John Mayall made 2 albums in 68, Bare Wires and Blues from Laurel Canyon. These are the last albums he would make in England before he moved to LA. Even though this is called Blues for Laurel Canyon, he was just visiting LA when he made this, but it's all inspired by his Los Angeles. Both of these have Mick Taylor, who was a teenager. He was phenomenal. At this point, I think he was almost as good as Peter Green, you know, but live, he could rip it up. So could Green. But anyways, I like both these albums. I don't know which one I like better, but I'm going to have these tied for number 40. All right. Cheating, I know, but there you go. There you go. Okay, here's 41 through 50. Pink Floyd, Saucer Full of Secrets. This is the one that is not dominated. Why am I showing you back there? This is the one that's not dominated by Syd Barrett, although he still is on a few tracks. This is my CD from the Shine On box set. The only time I have this album. It's still a great record. I'm a Floyd fanatic, and I pine for the mono mix on CD, which is not available. Not available, folks. Okay, you want a psychedelic album? Here's the Moody Blues, number 42. In Search of the Lost Chord. This is the box set with the surround sound mix, which doesn't really sound that great, to be honest with you. But it's a great album. Great psychedelic cover, too. All right, the most psych album that they ever made. Definitely. Okay, Steve Miller Band is 43. This is Children of the Future, his first album. I already showed you Sailor. Steve Miller Band, one of the many bands who made 2 albums this year. Boss Skaggs is still on here. This is still my favorite version of the Steve Miller Band. All right, that's a great one. Did a Steve Miller video, so you can catch my thoughts on that. Okay, 44 is Jefferson Airplane, Crown of Creation, another strong. I love every Airplane record of the 60s. They didn't make a bad one. They didn't even make a mediocre one. They didn't even make an above average one. I like them all. All right, so there's Crown of Creation. This actually placed higher in the charts than After Bathing at Baxter's, although I probably do prefer Baxter's. This is the old Multifidelity version. Sounds great. Buy that with confidence. Okay, 45 is the Red Crayola. God Bless the Red Crayola and All Who Sail with It. Another Texas psych band, although that, by this point they're just avant-garde. It's just kind of funky, you know, independent music. This is a great little box set. You know, it's not a box set. There's LP side 1 and LP side 2, but it's thick. It's, you know, comes with a booklet, and if you're into experimental Texas psych, pick this up. You know, there was no new 13th Floor Elevators album this year, right? Because Bull of the Woods is 69. When was the live album? Live album wasn't even live, but anyways, I like this better anyway than both of those albums. Okay, this is 46, Johnny Cash. This is his Folsom Prison album. This is the album that really made him a superstar. This, and then San Quentin, and then he had the TV show in the late 60s and the early 70s. He was probably the most popular country artist around. I don't know if he was the best, you know, because you had Merle Haggard to contend with. You know, there's always Willie Nelson and Waylon, but I love me some Johnny. Since I did my Johnny Cash video, I bought the big Columbia Albums box set, and this disc comes from that. All right? Okay, number 47 is Iron Butterfly. And a gotta defeat a baby. Okay, what you want on here is the side-long epic In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. Now, there's nothing wrong with the top 40 mix, which they, you know, you heard that on the radio at the time. They edited it all down, but you really want the full version. The other songs aren't bad. Most Anything You Want, Flowers and Beads, My Mirage, Termination. Are You Happy? You know, you get Doug Ingalls baritone, and there's also, I didn't have room for it, but I'd show you, because I think it's still pretty good, is Heavy. Both Iron Butterfly are another band that had two albums in 1968. Heavy, if you get the box set, well, Heavy comes in mono and stereo, but Heavy could be their best. Well, hard to say. I like it. I'm giving you In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida as my 47th choice, but I like Heavy as well. All right, and I'll just leave it at that. Okay, 48 is Ultimate Spinach. Now, these guys are from Boston. They had a whole scene, which people say really wasn't a scene, the Boss Town, whatever, psych scene. And I bought a lot of those albums. And I gotta probably say, Ultimate Spinach are my favorite band of that genre, if it is a genre, and the Beacon Street Union. But this is my favorite album to come from the whole Boston psych scene. It's virtually as good as an Airplane album, just not quite. You know, whom they kind of sometimes remind me of. If you get the box set of which is on a Karma of Ultimate Spinach, you get this great sounding CD. So I recommend that. Okay, 49 is Pentangle. Talking about a little English folk. Bert Jantz, John Renbourn, you know, a lot of acoustic guitar brilliance on here. You know, Jackie's vocals. I looked for The first Fairport Convention album was in '68 too. It's a good album. I like this actually better though. I looked for my Fairport albums, I couldn't find them, so I just left it off. But I would have put that probably in my top 60 if I'd been able to find it. Fairport Convention's first album. Anyway, I love Pentangle. All right. Number 50 is Small Faces. Ogden's Nutgone Flake. This is everyone's favorite Small Faces album. This is their big psych venture. I do like side 1 better than side 2, but the whole thing is great. There's a box set for this. This is the stereo mix, but the mono mix is on CD too. I probably should just get the box set and just get them both, but you know, did my Small Faces show. You guys know how I feel about them. And moving on at 40 minutes for 51 through 60, I'm using my Donovan Breezes of Patchouli to show you hurdy-gurdy man. Hurdy-gurdy, 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 hurdy-gurdy. Okay, where is it? Where is it? Here we go. There it is. All right, it's really good. Donovan made a really good album every year from 65 through 69, especially 66 through 69. So Hurdy-Gurdy Man is no exception. If you get this Breezes of Patchouli box, you get everything from 66 through 69. All right. Okay, 52 is Friends, the Beach Boys. We've been friends now for so many. Get this double 2 for CD. You get the 2020 album on here too. Can't beat that. They're 2 late 60s albums. Both of them are great. Friends. I think Brian once said this was his favorite album the Beach Boys made, but I think he's given different answers though, depending upon when you ask him that question. All right, 53 is The Hangman's Beautiful Daughter. Incredible string band. This is my favorite album of theirs. I don't remember if I showed you guys 5,000 Spirits or Layers of the Onion in my 67 video, but that's a great album too. I think this is a little bit better though. You know, again, it's a kind of fey English whimsical folk or psych folk, if you want to call it, which is again right up my alley. Okay, 54, Beefheart. Gotta do me a Beefheart video. I got his CDs are just sitting here waiting to show you guys. This is strictly personal, which is about as psych as Beefheart ever got, which is not really that psych, but it's a good record. It's not as good as the previous one or Trout Mask, but I wouldn't want to be without it. And if you get the Mirror Man album from '71, that's from the same sessions, I think. Right? So Strictly Confidential, 1968. Okay, number 55 is the West Coast Pop Art Experimental Band. This is A Child's Guide to Good and Evil. This is volume 3. I pretty much love all their albums, even though they're a weird band, you know. This guy right here was a pedophile. He wrote a lot of the lyrics too, which is too bad. But the music's great, you know, only in the 60s, right? Okay, 56, Laura Nero's, I was gonna get the title wrong. Eli and the 13th Confession, probably my favorite album of hers. All of her albums from the late 60s and the early 70s are worth your time. This is probably my favorite. This is the one I would start with. She had played the Monterey Pop Festival the year before, but I don't think she thought her performance went well. But if this album doesn't sell you on her music, I don't know what is going to. 57 is Phil Oakes, my boy Phil Oakes. Been listening to him lately. This is tape from California. He had moved to California by this time, Los Angeles, and this year his life would start to unravel when he went to the Democratic Convention later on in the year, but he made this album before that. And, you know, it's got some of his best songs on it, but you can say that about any Phil Oakes album, right? So, tape from California. Okay, I told you guys I would show you the second Bee Gees album, Idea. This is number 58. If you get these double disc sets, which are in the little box set, you get the mono and the stereo mix. I mean, it's the studio perfection. You know, these guys could really record, they could really sing and write, and, you know, Idea. Another good one. All right, we're winding down now. This is 59. This is the Vanilla Fudge. This is Renaissance from the box set. This is a better album than The Beat Goes On, which had come out earlier in 58. This is kind of a return to form, but it's still not as good as their album from 67. All right. And the last one I'm going to show you, number 60, is the Dillards. It's country rock, Wheat Straw Sweet. I'm going to show you what it looks like. If you get this little set here, is 3 albums on 2 discs. There's Wheat Straw Sweet. They're like another, these guys were bluegrass originally, and they were doing country rock at this time. Los Angeles was full of guys like that in the late 60s. Hearts and Flowers were another one, but if you've never heard that album, the Dillards, Wheat Straw Sweet, pick it up, especially if you're a Byrds fan, you're looking for related albums. I recommend it. All right, guys, that's it for me, Matt. I spent my entire morning doing this. This is a 45-minute video. That was my top 60 for 1968. My next video will not be another year video. I'll probably do Tom Waits, since a guy asked me to do Tom Waits anyway. But I will get to 69, hopefully before the end of the month. Matt, signing off.